This and every Wednesday, Tobago Talks, and when Tobago Talk, we listen. The political leader of the IDA, Denise Soifat Angus, joins us live this morning. Great to see you as always. Thanks for the time. Welcome.
Thank you, and good morning, Jason, and to all of our listening and viewing audience.
I want to start with a conversation I had yesterday with a political analyst, Dr. Shane Mohammed. I mentioned your name as one of the opposition options. I don't know if you would have heard of the discussion and the discourse, and he immediately dismissed IDA's chances, your particular momentum. He says that he believes you have a role and function, and there is still very much a space for you to be in the Tobago conversation, but he sees the race as a two-horse race in Tobago. Your take on that assessment?
Well, it is not a two-horse race. From our perspective, from what we have been getting from people on the ground, it is not necessarily a two-horse race in the way he sees it. People are, they left the PNM for a reason, yes? They were quite frustrated with the type of way they were being governed by the PNM and the way they were not seeing their way in terms of their quality of life towards that in the last 10 years. And therefore, they chose the PDP, and that morphed into something else. But persons are very disappointed with their choices from the last election because things have gotten even harder in Tobago. And so they are actually listening to us, listening to some of the policies that we are bringing to them and the opportunities. So people are not writing us off at all. Many people come up to me and say, listen, you're making sense. You're making sense. And one of the things that we want people to hear is the fact that we cannot continue hitting our head against the same wall and get a different result. And what do I mean by that? The fact that we continue to maintain status as beggars, even though we are supposedly in charge of Tobago. And that comes because many parties in Tobago, over the last 60 odd years, they eventually align themselves with a national party. Once they align themselves with a national party, all instructions come from that national party, who goes up in an election, who your representatives should be. And then after you get into office, people feel as if they have no say in Tobago because your representatives don't belong to you. They belong to a national party and the national policies that don't always favor Tobago. So it's time we do something differently because it was clear that, well, the PNM does not hide its alignment to the national party. The TPP, it was clear after the Prime Minister's visit where the TPP is aligned. And that not get anywhere.
But that alignment, we have seen via the budget, and, it's so unfortunate because PNM would have had 9 opportunities to really top up that allocation. And clearly the UNC in their first budget presentation would have given more compared to what happened in the last 9 years. And I would imagine that comfortable, that cozy relationship between the Chief Secretary and the Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister, probably played a role in Tobago receiving some more via the budgetary allocation. Your take on that coziness, that newfound political love relationship we are seeing, as it were, between Port of Spain and Scarborough?
Well, we have to be mindful that there's something called a Trojan horse. Yes? So we give with one hand and we wonder what else is coming behind it. And so we have to be mindful of that. The challenge with Tobago is not always that it's not always an issue of money. There are a whole lot of other things in terms of the way we govern. Who's going to be taking over the quarry? Tobago has been given a license, but in actuality, who is going to be taking over the quarry, and we leave that there to be answered by the administration. Yes? In essence, the national policies that are made always think about Tobago last. Every time we have a state of emergency, Tobago's tourism product gets further eroded. One that is already in shambles, it gets further eroded. Excuse me. Does the government, think about an SOE and think about how can they protect Tobago's, role in the tourism sector within that, statement of the SOE? And so we want persons to think further. The other thing is, why do we always have to be in begging status? It has to move beyond that. And the people have to see themselves. They have to awaken and see how they can be responsible for their own powers. And Tobago has a wealth of assets that we can begin to monetize, so we are not always in a position of having to beg.
Well, let me ask, is there the human capital and capacity to capitalize on these resources and they are indeed resources, and there is lots of potential in Tobago, but the question remains, Tobagonians, our brothers and sisters in the space, is there the expertise, the machinery, the will, the political will also to develop on these natural resources?
Well, the political will not be there as long as we are aligned to national parties and national policies. They will only see it fit to do it when they think it should be done. But if the people of Tobago are truly left to govern Tobago, then we will see more being done. And come on, we have provided this country with what? 2 prime ministers, a president, all of this. Why do we suddenly think that we don't have the capacity to govern ourselves and move ourselves forward?
Yeah.
So,
you understood? Obviously, we're having that open, frank conversation, because many say, well, again, this is not so much my words, but I'm just reflecting the sentiments of many who believe up to this day that if Trinidad is not there to prop up Tobago wouldn't be able to handle the story and achieve its potential. And I know there are many like yourself who disagree in a real way with that particular statement. So talk to me in real time as to what can be done in terms of the resources, or what the potential is in which sector, so that Tobago could really start to chart its own course. Okay,
so that theory has been sold to us so many times that we tend to believe it, but it is not so. I spoke about what we have provided. We provided central bank, the head of the central bank, a number of them. So we have to know how to harness our own resources and our own powers. Excuse me. And that resides within our communities. We are going to focus on building the communities, which are the foundation. They are the foundation of the future of Tobago and our economy. And, excuse me. And so that is where we're going to focus. I gave the example recently. I said we had a carnival that was a blimp for a weekend. But when you really examine that carnival, a lot of persons came from Trinidad, a lot of promoters came from Trinidad, a lot of fetes were put on from Trinidad. And so the bulk of the resources went back to Trinidad. Nothing wrong with that. But you have to see how you can create your space in the middle of that. And one of the things that we can do is create what we call carnival academies. Because when you looked at the persons who were the majority of people coming out, it wasn't just young people. They were mature persons. They were young retirees. How can we encourage them to come to Tobago, spend 6 months again, ahead of the carnival, You train, you learn to play pan, you learn to make your own mass, you learn to sing calypsos, and then you involve them in a full participation, not just in the fetes, but a full participation of now the display of what carnival really is. And so that way, we capitalize on a long-stay tourism product that creates mutual benefit to persons who just want to live, want to totally experience the carnival, and they come, they stay, they learn, and they are part of the competition on that weekend, and we all benefit.
Yeah, indeed. And not just different ideas.
In addition to that, one more. Our programs, 10 days, 10 offs, the URP and the CPEP, everyone knows that at the end of the election, they're going to be dissolved because it was a national policy to dissolve it in Trinidad, and therefore it's and Tobago. Those persons, a lot of them are involved in pan playing, mask making, and calypsos. So why not bring them now, reskill them to actually teach it and not just play it, and they have a different job market that pays better wages to teach persons who you have attracted to the island to be part of this academy. And so that is one of the ways that we are going to, engage persons, give more jobs, better wages, and also bring in revenue for the island.
Thanks for indeed sharing that perspective. Dr. Soifat Angus, what's the feedback from the Prime Minister's visit? When you talk to folks on the ground, what's the general consensus of her first state visit probably a week, a couple of days ago? Just give me that feedback in real time.
I think people were willing to accommodate that, okay, it's a first time visit, But I think she threw it all away when she stood up in the Assembly legislature and very proudly quoted the tagline of the TPP inside of the legislature, and people then said, no, this is just pure politics, and we're not willing to accept that. So people were very, they were willing to give a chance to listen, but when that occurred, they said, no, you just can't come and play the politics just like that. It reminded people of the 2013 election when they came and they just took over the whole election, did everything, gave monies, toys everywhere. I mean, Tobago was washed in money. And the people said, we will take what you're offering now, but we are not willing to put you back because of what we think may occur after you get there. If this is how you're behaving as if you own us before you get there, what is going to happen when you get there? Well, so I think it's bringing back those memories to people, and they're very concerned.
Well, as always, we want to thank you for the perspective. Let's keep in touch. We know that the THA election is due. Some suspect it could happen before the end of 2025. Many anticipate it could be late Feb, early March, but we know within the next couple of weeks we will be heading to the pools in Tobago, and we'll be definitely touching base again. Thanks as always, and all the best.
Thank you for having me.
That's right, when Tobago talk, we listen. Up next, Senator David Naked, Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Sport and Youth Affairs. We're treating with the David Naked Football Academy and the state of TNT football. We're going to get into some football discussions with Senator Naked next.